Okay, Adventure Alan here, and welcome to our head-to-test field test of the Garmin inReach Mini versus the Zoleo versus the Somewear. And over the past few months, we've had a lot of opportunity to use these units and test their capabilities locally, but now it's time to take it out into the field for an acid 4-day test into the backcountry. But before we do that, we thought we'd just give you at least a brief introduction to the cast of characters. So the first unit up here is the Garmin inReach Mini, and this is the smallest and lightest unit, and it's the most fully featured unit with the most robust feature set that's been defined and refined over a decade. We've taken it all over the world with us, from Patagonia to Alaska, and it's done a fabulous job. It's the most reliable communicator for both messaging and trip tracking, and it's the only unit that you can do all the operations from the unit itself, including reading emails. But it does lack a few things that the Zoleo and the Somewear have. It's a satellite-only unit, so it does not do communication through cellular or Wi-Fi data, which saves you data on the Zoleo and Somewear units. And its almost decade-old roots are beginning to show, with kind of a creaky, nested, fairly complicated user interface, both on the menu system on this unit and in the app that you would use on your phone. Next up, we have the Somewear. It's the next lightest and most compact unit, and we think of it somewhere as an inReach Lite. It does both messaging and tracking like the inReach does, and has downloadable maps, so like the Garmin, so you can track your route on the app on the iPhone. And like the inReach Mini, it also has a web portal where users can see your track progress and the locations of your message on a map on the web. That being said, these functions are a little less robust and fully featured than the inReach, but better than the inReach, the Somewear does transparently move between cellular, Wi-Fi, and satellite data, and it's got a far easier user interface. In fact, the user interface is so simple for the Somewear that they don't even do a user manual. And finally, we have the Zoleo here, and this is the heaviest and largest unit, but it's also the least expensive unit with the least expensive data plan. The Zoleo does only one thing besides sending SOS messages, and that's sending text messages or email messages, but it nails it. The Zoleo has the most seamlessly messaging between cellular, Wi-Fi, and satellite data. It's transparent to you on the end, and it's transparent to users. To them, it looks like they're just sending messages to a cell phone number, and that's because the Zoleo is the only unit to have a dedicated cellular number to it. So clearly the most transparent and sophisticated and easy to use messaging of the three, but that's all it does. It doesn't do tracking. There is no in-app mapping on the unit to see where you're going. There's no web portal for people to view the messages and your progress. So it comes with some limitations, and like the Somewear, it's exceptionally easy to use. We actually had read the user manual and had no trouble using it. So one final caveat, our sound mic, the wind screen blew off mid-trip, so when you're viewing the field performance shots, there's going to be some wind noise in sections. Please bear with us. There's a lot of important information, and it'll go away. So without further ado, we're going to head out into the field and see how these units do head-to-head. Hi, Adventure Alan here, and we are on day 2 of field testing 3 satellite messengers. We're going to be out here for 4 days testing these units and seeing how they stack up against each other, and we'll see how they do. Okay, so we're in the middle of day 2 of evaluating the satellite messengers, and we have enough field time in with them that sort of some patterns and sort of some strengths and weaknesses are beginning to emerge, and so we thought we'd do a sort of quick coverage of it. And first thing we'll do is we'll just talk about physical. First unit here, the Garmin inReach. This is our favorite. Obviously, it's like 3 ounces, easily fits in my pocket here. If I want to go on a day hike or off on a jaunt, I can stick it in my pants pocket. It can go everywhere. It's super compact and easily the lightest and most convenient to carry. Next up is the Somewear unit. It's got a little sort of bungee cord thing, so you can clip it onto like a pack shoulder clap like this and clip it right there. It's also pretty decent size to put in your pants pocket, so pretty portable. And the last unit here is this Zoleo, and it's clearly the largest one. It's kind of a little brick shape. It's a little heavy to like clip to your pack. You could, but it sort of dongle around a bit. It's really easier just to store in a pocket, which is okay because there really isn't anything you're going to do with it other than click this button to send a location, but otherwise it pretty much could stay in a pocket. So we've been keeping it in this pocket right here. Okay, so let's talk messaging, and I think this is actually going to go in reverse order. So our favorite unit so far for messaging is the Zoleo. It's easily the most transparent and seamless messaging. It goes between Wi-Fi, cellular, and satellite without any glitch to either me using the end application or, even more important, someone else on the ground. They can go ahead and send a message to a dedicated phone number to this, just like they would message any other cell phone. They don't need to know that they're messaging a satellite unit or doing anything special. So clearly this is also very fast, and the interface is very easy to use. Next is the Somewear, and it does a pretty good job. Again, it's got a very, this one doesn't even have a user manual. The interface is so easy to use the messaging on this that there isn't a user manual. And the only reason that it's not quite as good at messaging as the Zoleo, it does not have a dedicated phone number. So it's not seamless. So even though it looks like it's sending a message to a phone number, you can't just randomly send a text to that phone number and have it go through to this unit. So, but pretty good and fast. And I should mention that all of these are on the Iridium satellite network, which is the best network. The Spot units use the Global Star, which is not as reliable, not as fast. So all of these, in terms of the speed and accuracy of sending messages, do very well. Last is this Garmin inReach. It's kind of an older interface. The messaging is pretty transparent from my end, from the app, but it gets very confusing from the end user, especially in terms of how to send a message back to the unit. It can be done, it works, but it's the least seamless of the 3 units. And this is a satellite-only device, so it does not seamlessly go between Wi-Fi, cellular, and satellite. This is satellite only. And I forgot to mention that the Somewear unit, like the Zoleo, seamlessly or pretty seamlessly goes between Wi-Fi, cellular, and then satellite, depending on what it has. The one advantage that this inReach has for messaging is that I can read the messages on this unit. I don't need to have the app open. I can go into this interface and I can read messages. So the only difficulty is I cannot compose messages on this. So for all 3 devices, you do need to compose messages on the app on your phone. But this, at least, I can read the messages on it. Okay, so let's talk about tracking. We think it's a really important function, especially for users to be able to look at your progress and see where you're doing. There's some safety implications of it, but certainly there's also a lot of armchair pleasure and some reassurance of people at home to see that you're moving along where you are, that you're moving along safely. And the unit that is doing the best at this is the inReach, and that's not surprising. They've been doing this sort of tracking function for maybe a decade now, and it's a very robust and sophisticated tracking function. You can download your track after the trip. You can download all your waypoints, all your location messages. You can download some GPS files, move them into other apps. People can see them online. So extremely robust. I can also see my time and distance and speed on this without having to look at anything else. So very robust feature set. The newcomer here is the Somewear, and it actually it's got, again, a very simple interface. It actually does a pretty decent job of tracking points. We've been following the track versus the route that we've been following, and this has been doing a very good job. And we can download the track afterwards, which is also a very nice feature. At this point, you cannot download your waypoints or your locations, but you can download the track. And this also has a very nice function, which you can download the map area that you're into. So even though you're out of cell coverage, you can have the maps available. So when we look on this, we're actually seeing our point and our location and our track on an actual map that's stored in the app, which is very nice. Last is the Zoleo. And Zoleo has decided that they're going to focus on messaging, and they're going to nail messaging. So this unit does not track. You can send a location message to someone, but there is no tracking of your track, and there is no way for someone to go and look on your track on the web. They can see where you are when you send a location. They can see where you are on a map, but they're sticking with the messaging and specific locations. Okay, so as you can see, the weather's looking pretty unstable. We're exposed high on a ridge here. This is an area that's notorious for its high powered afternoon thunderstorms, and we're kind of wondering what we might be in for. We've got these 3 units here. They all do weather via satellite. So we're going to send in a request to get a weather prediction, weather forecast for all 3 units. And then we're going to sit down and look at them and see what they have to offer and maybe do a little compare and contrast. Okay, day 3, we're still testing these GPS units. As I said earlier when we were checking the weather, this is a very wet and rainy area, and we are now checking the performance of these satellite messengers in pretty heavy rain and moderately forested area, and we'll see how it goes. But we just decided to take a break from hiking and hope that this will blow through. Okay, so we have managed to request and receive weather from all 3 of these units, and I'm just going to do a little compare and contrast. It is very wet and rainy, so it was a little difficult. All 3 units had a little challenge kind of pulling in a signal, but they all eventually did it. So now I'm just going to go through the weather reports. So let's start off with the Zoleo. And the Zoleo is saying that it is a 15 to 18% chance of rain for the rest of the day. They're even saying it should be partially sunny right now. And, you know, this is each device is using a different weather report from a different area, so this isn't a condemnation on Zoleo. It's just how their weather report happened to come up. Moving on to the EarthMate. This is actually the inReach Mini. It is saying 100% chance of heavy rain right now. I'm buying that because it's been doing this for about 30-40 minutes now. And finally, the Somewhere here, pull that up. And the Somewhere is actually saying a 60% chance of rain, which is not bad. So win goes to the Garmin, second place to the Somewhere, and in third place the Zoleo. But again, if I was in a different location, it might be a different story. I mean, this is not quite like a conclusive, but it's fun, and it does show that, you know, in a moderately forested area with it raining and stuff, I mean, it's going to be a little harder to get a satellite signal. Okay, we are back from our 4-day trip in the backcountry where we evaluated the Garmin inReach Mini versus the Zoleo versus the Somewear unit, and we would like to share sort of the summary of our findings with you. And the first unit that we're going to talk about is the Garmin inReach Mini. And if reliability, top performance, and a full set of features is your criteria, then this is the unit that you want. It had the most reliable messaging. It was the only unit to get every message out. And it has by far the largest and most robust feature set. And it does the best job tracking. It's obviously the smallest and lightest unit, and all the information is available on this device. The only thing I can't do on this device, well, I could, is compose text messages. It's tedious, but I could do it from here. But that's really the only thing that I would have to do from the app. Everything else I can do from this phone. It allows group texting and messaging, which the Zoleo and Somewear do not, and that's actually a far more useful feature than at first blush it might appear so. It's got a detailed and accurate weather reports. It does a great job mapping on the iPhone app, and of course there's a web portal that's by far the most sophisticated web portal. You can see tracks, you can see waypoints, you can see message locations, you can download all of those things. So this is the unit that we would take Patagonia, Alaska, guiding and such, guiding or scouting out a new route that we're going to document. But this unit, it does have some downsides. First of all, it doesn't do cellular or Wi-Fi data. It's a satellite-only unit. And the other major downside of this is it's got a pretty dated user interface. It's definitely nested, more complicated menu. There's a lot of power user features that a lot of people don't need, but will have to wade through. The next unit up here is the Somewear Global Hotspot. And we think this of the Somewear is something like an inReach Mini Lite. It takes most of the good features of the inReach and updates it with a contemporary user interface that's so simple that they don't even include a manual with it. Unlike the Mini, it does both cellular and Wi-Fi data, and you use the same app to receive messages whether they go cellular, Wi-Fi, or satellite. And like the inReach, it actually does tracking, which is nice, and you can actually download your track. The app has a map. You can download the maps for offline use, even if there isn't cellular or Wi-Fi data. And there's a nice web portal where users can see your track and your messages on a map, and you can download your track. That being said, these features are not as fully featured or as functional as the inReach Mini, but they do the basic job and get it done. On the downside, this Somewear is the least usable standalone unit. Basically, all you can do besides turn it on and off is send an SOS button by lifting off this lid. So it is a very, very smartphone-dependent unit. Okay, and our last unit here is the Zoleo. And the Zoleo is the messaging ease of use champ. And it's the only unit to have a dedicated cellular phone number for fully transparent messaging. Nobody will ever know that they're sending text to anything like a satellite unit. It looks just like you're sending them to another cell phone. So it makes it the only unit that is the easiest, both from my perspective using it in the field, but probably more important, there is no extra humps or confusion for friends on the end, which would be less familiar with the unit, to jump through. So that's a huge advantage. This is also the least expensive unit, and it also has the least expensive data plan. Although that, albeit since it doesn't do tracking, there's no data charge for tracking points because you can't send any tracking points. So while the Zoleo nails messaging, it doesn't do a lot of things that the Somewear and the inReach does. So there is no app on the phone that has a map to see where you are, what your track is, where your messages are. There's just simply a list of messages that went in and out on it. There's no web portal for people to see where your messages come up on a map. They can see where your message comes up in an individual email, but there's no way to see the group of them. One kind of nice upside is that it does have all these LED buttons on it. So unlike the Somewear, there's an audible alert and a bunch of buttons, so you can actually do some operation of this unit in the field. You can press this unit and send an OK location message. You can send an SOS message, and these little blinking lights around you give a good idea of what it's doing without your phone. But finally, this is the heaviest and bulkiest of the devices, and it's not as pocketable or as easy to attach to things as either the Zoleo, either the Somewear or the inReach Mini. Okay, so how do they rank out? Well, it's not quite apples to apples, but we'll try and do our best. Not surprisingly, the inReach Mini is still our favorite. It's the smallest, it's the lightest, it's the most robust, it's the most fully featured. So if you're willing to take a little bit of time to learn how to use it and access the features you want and ignore the features you don't, this is top performance, top message reliability. It's definitely the way to go. It does have a slightly more expensive data plan. There is no cell or Wi-Fi data on it. But since our primary use is in the backcountry where those aren't available, this is our favorite. I think our next favorite, and in some ways nicer than the inReach, is the Somewear Global Hotspot. It has the basic feature sets that you would need for the backcountry. It's got the tracking, it's got the map on the app, it's got a nice web portal, we can download our tracks. So the folks at Somewear did a nice job defining a feature set. And it's also relatively light and pocketable. It's only about an ounce more than the Mini. And depending on how you use it, the data plan can be more or less expensive. It really gets down to tracking. If you're using a lot of tracking, the basic plan on the inReach is actually a little cheaper because it doesn't charge you for 10-minute tracking points. The Somewear, you do have to pay for those tracking points. You get 160 of them. On the premium plan, the Somewear, which are unlimited for both, the Somewear is actually at $50 versus $65. The Somewear is cheaper. But a very nice unit and a very nice first effort. It's a little rough around the edges, but we expect the folks at Somewear to figure it out. And finally, the Zoleo. If you don't care about tracking, and we do think tracking is important, but we realize that other people probably aren't going to do it. If messaging is your only thing that you want to do and you're cost conscious, this might be a good choice. It's the least expensive unit. It's about at least $100 less than the Somewear and the inReach. It has the cheapest data plan, and it has the most seamless and easy to use messaging. So if you think all you're going to do is messaging and you're willing to take a bit more weight in bulk, this is definitely worth a hard look. So there you have it. We have our, let me stack them up here, our 3 contenders here. And I think we've given you enough information that you could very easily decide which one is the right unit for you. Anyway, we hope you found this video useful. If you did, please like this video. Please go ahead and follow our channel on YouTube. We'll be putting on a bunch more great videos, so make sure that you click that bell so you get alerted of all our new content. And until then, this is Adventure Alan signing out until the next video.